Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 21st episode of Help Desk Live. My name is Kat Hoyt, and I am a first-year Help Desk member. This is my second semester of this year in the Help Desk, and I am pleasured to be joined here by Lara, Fleming, and Diana Rendina. They are makerspace pros, and today is our Digital Learning Day episode, and I'm very excited to be discussing makerspaces with them. So I'm going to give you guys a second to introduce yourself quickly. You can say your name, where you're from, what your position is, and what that position entails. Diana, if you want to go first.
Rendina, I'm the media specialist. Here. Last year we started a makerspace at our school, and this past school year we began creating a physical space to it and kind of broadening that into more programs at our school.
Awesome. Okay. Lara, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Lara Fleming, Library Media Specialist at New Milford High School in New Milford, New Jersey. And we too launched our makerspace last year, and it's been amazing to see it evolve over time into a flourishing space now in our school community, which we're very proud of. So that's part of what I do. Another part of what I do is I'm a technology integration specialist here at my school, and the makerspace kind of blends those two things beautifully.
Awesome. Before I start asking you guys questions, I would like to congratulate you, Lara. You are a newly published author. Your book, Worlds of Making, our help desk plans to purchase very soon, and I think I speak for all of us when I say we are all really excited to read that. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Kat.
Welcome. So I'll ask our first question first. Diana, if you want to answer it, it is, based off your experience, what have been the benefits of implementing a makerspace in your school?
Oh, wow. There's a lot of different things that have benefited our school by having a makerspace. I think the best thing for us is that it gives our students a place to kind of be creative and just kind of like have fun and explore different things that they're interested in a more informal way. We cut art and other classes like that in our school. We don't have them anymore because we're STEM focused, so they don't really have any other place where they can just kind of make things and build things and just kind of pursue the stuff that they're interested in.
Very cool. Okay, Lara?
I think for me, the reason I was brought here to New Milford High School was to help transform their library. Before I came here, the library was a barren wasteland. Nobody used it, no students, no staff, and thanks to the addition of our makerspace, it's now become a vibrant, unique learning environment that our students, I think, need, that they want, and that they deserve.
Awesome. So our second question is, what draws people in? What aspect of the makerspace is more important, the visual appeal, which attracts attention, or the content? Our school is actually in the process of designing a makerspace, and we were thinking if we're trying to draw in high school students, maybe we should put like a coffee machine, because nothing will draw sleepy teenagers in more than putting coffee in there. So what do you think is more important, how it looks on the outside or what's the inside of it? Diana, if you want to answer.
I think it's a little bit of both. When we started last year at my school, we didn't really have a physical space set up. We just put a couple of library tables together and then put out some Legos and Connects for the students to play with. But this year we started creating the physical space, and I think that's been a big draw too, because we made this really massive Lego wall on the first wall that you see coming into the library, and that kind of immediately draws kids in, and they see like, this isn't your typical library, this is something different. So I think it can be a combination of the two, really. You have to have something interesting for them to do when they get there, but having something to kind of pull them in is really good too.
Definitely. Awesome. Okay, Lara?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, my library was built in the 1920s, and it hasn't been renovated for decades. So we're certainly not flashy in any way, and I don't think the space, the physical space itself, attracts the kids. I think it's more of the content in our library, at least, just because of our environment. So I think it really is a combination of both, but I think really the key to our success has been that our makerspace is an informal learning space. So kids visit on their free time. So that might be during their independent study periods or during their lunchtime. Sometimes teachers will send them down when they finish their classwork or a test. Sometimes it's after school or before school. So they really visit the space because they want to, and nobody's telling them they have to, and it's not for an assessment of any kind. It's just because they're passionate about doing these things. And I think that's really been the key to our success.
Very cool. So you like show them what the content is, and then it's up to them to go down and explore it?
Yeah, I mean, the way we set up our makerspace, and you'll read more about this in the book, we have different kinds of stations. We have fixed stations and flexible stations. And the fixed stations are meant to run themselves. So at any point during the school day, students can come to the makerspace, sit down and engage in an activity there with very little teacher facilitation. There are things that the kids can do pretty much on their own. Other stations we have are called flexible stations, and those are things that are a little bit more difficult or that might take a little bit more time that I rotate in and out of the space, and I'll be there actively modeling things for the children and helping them. So it varies. The activities vary.
Cool. All right, so then our next question is, what are the makerspace essentials? What are the must-haves for having a makerspace? Maybe you can share like your favorite part of yours or what you think is like most used by students. Diana, you can answer first.
Well, I think the must-have is really going to vary from one school to the next, just because every student population is different. You know, everybody has different things that they're really interested in. So I don't think it's necessarily going to be like one specific thing. I know for our school, the biggest must-haves in our makerspace really are the Lego wall, and we also have a whiteboard wall and a bunch of whiteboard tables where the kids can kind of like draw and brainstorm. And for my school, those are kind of the two biggest elements because everything else just kind of revolves around those areas. And you'll see the kids constantly kind of like going from one thing to another in that part.
Cool. All right, Laura?
I agree with Diana as well. I always say that no two makerspaces should ever be alike, and I've never seen any two makerspaces that are alike, which is a fabulous thing. They really should be personal to the needs and wants of your school community, and that varies from school to school. So I would say, though, at our school, I think our most popular station in our makerspace is our Take Apart Technology station, where we have computers available for students to take apart and glued, literally glued right to the table in that station. I have the components of computers, and so students take apart computers and they're able to identify those parts and read about those parts and learn how those parts work. And we've progressed from not only taking apart technology at that station, but also building computers at that station, which has been amazing.
That's very cool. We actually just started building our makerspace, and we ordered our 3D printer like a week ago, and immediately after we had ordered it, people were using it. So I feel like that will be like the central item of our makerspace, but you're definitely right that no two makerspaces should be alike. So our next question is about budgeting, specifically for schools with low budgets. How do you make your makerspace cool and interesting and still manage having a limited budget? Diana.
Well, my school is a Title I school, which means that 70% of our students are on free or reduced lunch. So we don't really have, you know, a ton of extra money coming in. For creating our makerspace, we've relied almost exclusively on donations and Donors Choose projects, which Donors Choose is a website where teachers can create projects and people can come help fund them. So for almost everything in our makerspace, the Lego wall we got through Donors Choose, we got snap circuits and we got Sphero, Cubelets through Donors Choose. We also did a Lego drive last year where people could donate their Legos if they didn't want them anymore, and we had a lot of teachers with college-age students donating their Legos so that we could have that in our space. So those have really been the two main things. That, and we've started looking at more grants because there's a lot of STEM-focused grants out there that can really help you to fund a makerspace.
Okay, Laura?
Last year when we launched our makerspace, I have to say I think our biggest cost was our 3D printer, but aside from that, I really only spent about $1,000 to launch the makerspace, and that included all of the materials that got us through all of last year, which was amazing. Our Take Apart Technology station, is free, because we use computers here at our school that aren't broken, but that are running slowly, that are being replaced for whatever reason, that our tech department gives us for our makerspace. So that is such a flourishing part of our makerspace that is completely free, which is amazing. And we also, computer coding is one of our themes in our makerspace, so we also take advantage of a lot of the free resources that are out there on the web to do those kinds of activities.
Awesome. I love that idea with taking apart the technology and stuff, and you could even just like send an email out to the school and say anybody who has like an old phone or something that they're not using, if they want to bring it in.
Absolutely, and we've had students and teachers donate either their old desktop computers, their old cell phones, their old iPods, whatever it might be, and the kids just eat all of that stuff up. They love taking apart those different devices.
That's awesome. Okay, so our next question is, which is more beneficial in a makerspace, student-teacher learning, student-student learning, or the freedom to explore and learn individually? Maybe from your experience, what has been going on in your makerspace? You can share that, Diana.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, all three will happen on any given day. I think, to me, the most valuable thing is seeing the students teaching each other. Because a lot of times the kids will become experts in these different tools that we have, and they'll actually know more about it than I do. And it's really cool to just see them like show another student how to use Sphero with their phone, or how to connect some little bits together to make a circuit. And I think those are the most valuable moments for them, because when you can switch from that role of being a student to teaching someone else about something, that means that you're learning more, and you're kind of really getting the concept a lot more by being able to teach it to someone else.
Definitely. Laura, what do you think?
I think all of the things you said are equally as important, actually, to me, because we're an informal learning space here at my school, and the children can visit anytime during the day that they have time to do that. We often see kids cross social boundaries that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise crossed in a formalized classroom setting. So there's times during the day where we have our engineering students right alongside our developmentally disabled students and our English language learners, and they're all helping each other and working together. So that's an amazing thing to see. But equally as amazing has been my opportunity to learn right alongside my students. You know, speaking of the 3D printer, especially the day we got our 3D printer, none of us had ever seen a 3D printer in person. None of us knew how to use it or knew what we were doing. So it was this fabulous opportunity to learn it all together. And I've had a lot of students who have gone home at night or on weekends and have watched YouTube videos on our 3D printer or on 3D design, and have come back to school to teach me and to teach their peers. So it's just been an incredible experience to learn right alongside my students.
That's very cool. In our help desk, each of us are assigned a project, and my project for this semester is actually the makerspace. That's like my responsibility to organize it and everything.
Wow.
And like you said,
Awesome.
And like you said, I went into Google SketchUp. Ms. Sheffer told me to design the room through Google SketchUp, and I had never used Google SketchUp before. So like you said, I had to go on YouTube and watch a bunch of tutorials. And I agree, it's very interesting when students are teaching themselves things, and then they're comfortable to teach a teacher or another student within a very short period of time. So that's awesome.
And I definitely encourage you to take advantage of that, since you're the one setting up the makerspace. Definitely call upon your peers in that process.
Okay, so then our last question is, was your makerspace design student-driven or teacher-driven? Like I said, our makerspace is, Ms. Sheffer is definitely the main person pushing us, but myself and another senior, Mira, are designing it, and the creativity is coming from us, and we are very excited to, like both of you said, make it a student learning kind of thing. We hope that people will come down from their classes and want to learn from us, and we can teach them how to do everything. So was your makerspace a student-driven project or a teacher-driven project, Diana?
Well, it was a little bit of both, but as we were putting it together, my students were really the ones that had the main influence on what we were doing. After we took that first step and we put the Connects and the Legos out on our library tables, I put out a call on our school social network platform, and I just asked if anyone was interested in helping to plan a makerspace, which none of the kids really knew what that meant, but a bunch of them kind of jumped on it when I said it was Legos and stuff. So we had a makerspace planning committee, and those kids were the ones who kind of, we talked about what kinds of tools we wanted to have, what kinds of experiences, do we want it out all the time, do we want to have clubs, and they really kind of helped direct what that space was going to be, what it was going to look like, what we were going to put in it. So I kind of provided guidance and offered pictures of different maker spaces and things to kind of inspire them. But they were the ones who really decided, this is how we want this space to be, this is the kind of stuff we want to have there.
Awesome. So you guys have a really big space. I remember I went to, I think, the second half of your session at EduCon. Do you have any suggestions for us? Because we have actually a very small space. I think our room is 9 by 21 maybe. So do you have any suggestions for how we can space ours out compared to yours, which has so much room?
Is this question for me or for Laura?
For you, Diana.
Oh, okay. I wasn't actually at EduCon, but for our space, it's not really huge. What we basically have is a corner of the library. I don't know the exact dimensions, but I would guess it's maybe 15 feet by 15 feet. And then we have a room in the back that used to store all the videos for teachers to check out, but we moved those to a different area, and the kids have that room, and that's probably maybe a 8 by 10 foot room or something like that.
Okay.
So we kind of made it to where it would kind of blend with the rest of the library. So sometimes kids will hang out in that area. They aren't necessarily making stuff. They're just hanging out with their friends. And then sometimes they'll be working on a project and they'll actually bring it to a different part of the library and work on it there. So it all kind of blends together.
Awesome. Okay. So that's actually all the questions that I have. If you guys have any last things that you want to share, maybe that I didn't hit with one of my questions that you think is important for schools that would like to implement a makerspace, either of you have something?
Yeah, I can add something to that. I get calls all the time or emails all the time from schools who want to develop a makerspace, and oftentimes the question I get asked first is, I have a certain amount of money, whatever it might be, what should I buy? And to me, that's a big pet peeve of mine, because I don't think the process in planning a makerspace starts with what you should buy. I think there's a lot of planning that needs to take place first before you decide what you should buy. And part of that planning is exactly what Diana was talking about, talking to your students, talking to your teachers, assessing the needs of your school community, and taking into consideration things that are just happening in education and in the world today, and based on those things, developing themes for your makerspace, and then based on those themes, making your purchases.
Okay, awesome. Diana, do you have any one thing that you want to share, like a piece of advice?
Oh, but Laura's was so good. I would say just, I think you guys have already kind of covered it, but just making sure that it's really student-driven and that you're going with what the students are interested in, and also making sure that you do things just to kind of build in that culture of creativity and making throughout the school. Which it sounds like you guys have already kind of started doing that. You really want to make sure that you don't necessarily have to limit making just to that one maker space. You could bring it out into different areas. Like I said, it kind of spills over into the rest of the library for us, and sometimes I'll see kids over in the stacks of books building a little robot in a little corner, because that's just their space. So just kind of having that culture and not worrying about having it be limited to one specific area.
Definitely. Okay. So I want to give you guys a quick second to promote yourselves, share your Twitter accounts, your blogs. You can tell people how they can get your book, Laura, so that people can connect with you and see all the awesome things that you guys are doing with your makerspaces. Diana, if you want to go first with that.
Sure. So I blog at renovatedlearning.com. That's where we've documented the process of my blog. I was blogging last year when we first started it, the process of my makerspace, not my blog. So all of the different stuff on there, and I've got resources and links to things that we used as we got started. And I'm on Twitter at Diana L. Rendina. So you can find me there.
Right. Laura, if you want to go.
Sure. My blog is www.worlds-of-learning.com. And I am also on Twitter at NMHS_LMS. And my book, which I just happen to have right here, is called World of Making Best Practices for Establishing a Makerspace for Your School. And I should add, too, that Diana contributed to this book. So anybody who reads this book will hear her makerspace story in this book as well, which is just fabulous. The book is available on Amazon, and it's also available through Corwin, who's the publisher of the book. And I'm constantly tweeting links for it, so you can't miss it.
Awesome. Okay. And then, again, thank you guys so much for participating in this with me. I'd also like to thank everybody who watched it live and everybody who's going to watch it on the archive. This has been our 21st episode of Help Desk Live, and if anybody watching would like to be featured on a future episode of Help Desk Live, you can contact my teacher, Jen Sheffer. Her Twitter account is at JLSheffer, and that's SCHEFFER. Or you can email her at jsheffer@bpsk12.org. We're always looking for people who are innovative teachers in education, so if anybody would like to connect with us, we would love to have you on one of our future spring episodes. And that concludes today's broadcast, so thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Kat. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.